Folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name's Jason Robertson and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. And Jason, as always, a special good morning to Kagan Girl. Kagan Girl, number one again in the chats, in the studio. Welcome aboard, Kagan Girl, and welcome aboard, everybody. Jason, we had to do it again. We had to recap all of Donald Trump's wins because they keep piling up and you can't ignore them. And you've got to focus on them. We are going to touch on Epstein. We have some theories. We got to talk about the one thing that seems like he might have dropped the ball on. We have some different thoughts on that as well. But Jason, the wins are stacking up and Democrats are melting down.
I got to say, it's funny. I do Wayne Dupree's podcast with him during the week. You did some a podcast yesterday where he dove into Epstein. And, it's dominating the news. For those who've turned in, we've done deep dives on it. We've gone through it all. But right now, I got to say, it's taken a funny twist. We were going to completely ignore it and just move on because there's so many other good things, but we just got to touch on it to show that the freedom from the press conspiracy theories often come true. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Do us a favor as we get going. If you're not following the channel, whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, go ahead and hit the follow button and do us a favor. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a share. Helps us get reach on the podcast. But we appreciate you tuning in. But yeah, today we're going to take a quick pit stop on Epstein, and then it's full bore, so much winning. Todd, where do we start? You did a huge deep dive on this yesterday.
Okay, so on the surface, Jason, let's just cover how the coverage is going here. So on the surface, it seems like Donald Trump is really out of character. Here he is campaigning, and I played a clip on the podcast yesterday. You can go check it out on the American Tribune Live Rumble channel. 2016, he gets asked about Epstein and Bill Clinton. He's like, something's going to come out. 2016, chanting lock her up. 2024, I am going to release the files. 9/11, JFK, Epstein. I'll release all of them because I'm transparent and the American people deserve to know the truth. And then interestingly, a week or so ago, Donald Trump says, you're stupid. Why are you still talking about this? Epstein died a couple of years ago. Why are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? And we're over here scratching our heads saying, well, like, because you campaigned on releasing Epstein. You kind of acknowledged that was a thing. Pam Bondi said the files were on her desk. And we're kind of curious, if you can't release the files, who's really running the show here? So yeah, we have a lot of questions, Donald Trump. I don't think we're stupid for wanting to see the names in there. So Donald Trump really seemed out of character, going after his own base. But Jason, I didn't really cover this yesterday, and this is where it gets really fun. Is Donald Trump playing 4D chess again?
I gotta say, I love when people talk 4D chess, and when we talked about it when the Epstein issue first surfaced. Now, I think Todd and I share the same opinion. I think the conclusion of the Epstein files, none of the elite pedos are going to go to jail, and we're learning that there are people more powerful than the president of the United States. Todd, is that a pretty fair summation?
That is a very accurate summation, Jason.
Yeah, so some of this stuff that you're seeing that you're not seeing, some of it's for show. Like, it's kind of like when the JFK files got released, there was no smoking gun. There was no memo that said, oh, the CIA killed JFK. Everybody was left unsatisfied. And there's this deep distrust of the government. It is not going to be solved on this. But I got to say, when Trump first came out, they were doing such a bad job messaging the Epstein files. They were letting Democrats run away. He was calling it a hoax. He attacks his base. But it has become, because Donald Trump is doing such an amazing job as president, and Democrats are less popular than ever. They have no messaging. Everybody's realizing they're lying about the border, lying about immigration. You figure U.S. aid and all these things that funded their operation, like that we were funding our own demise with the Democrats. And we had floated a concept, and I believe we even did it with the infamous tinfoil hat. But we said, what if President Trump was really doing all this nonsense so that, and kind of the bad messaging to get Democrats to go after him, because he's not in the files. We've documented on the American Tribune.news where he wrote an article about it. But what if it was just Democrats got nothing to stand on? What if they go after the Epstein thing to demand the release of it, and then it gets released? It shows A, Trump wasn't involved, then B, turns out a lot of your favorite Democrats were. And we thought it was a little bit crazy. And then last night, Donald Trump came out and said, we're going to release it all. We're going to start with the grand jury testimony. And Todd, what? Take it away.
Yeah, see, Donald Trump knows. We all can see this. I don't know why Democrats don't see it themselves. Whatever position Trump takes, Democrats take the opposite because they think that's going to appeal to the base. Well, Donald Trump said A, so we're going to say B. So Donald Trump knows this, and he's a smart politician. He's seen it happen before. So if Donald Trump just has to say, there's nothing in the Epstein files, he guaranteed that Democrats would be like, release the files. Donald Trump must be covering something up here. It's so obvious and so transparent. So, of course, they had to take the other side. Okay, if he's downplaying Epstein, then we're going to upplay it a little bit, demand transparency. And I got a comment on Kim here, and then I got to get to Dee Dee's comment. Welcome aboard, Dee Dee. I have a comment on your hat. So Kim says, if the files had anything on Trump, the Dems would have already made a move. Trump said as much, too. You're telling me after 2016, 2020, 2024, Donald Trump himself said after winning 3 elections, I mean, I don't know if we can say that yet on Facebook. Donald Trump said it, not me. He said, you're telling me after 3 election cycles, now they want the files released and now they're going to tell the public that I'm in them? No, they would not have been sitting on that ammo after he's no longer eligible to continue running for president. So it never added up, Jason. It just never added up.
Yeah. And then yesterday, when they demand, you've got the whole Democrat machine moving against it. Anna Paulina Luna, who some of her stuff's pretty good. Some of her stuff gets a little out there. But she dropped this great tweet.
While others were busy stabbing President Trump in the back, she writes, we were working overtime behind the scenes in the Oval Office. This photo was taken earlier today, and no, it's not a coincidence. This is 4D chess, not checkers. Welcome to the big leagues. Enjoy Phase 3. Pam Bondi is unsealing grand jury testimony, and there's much more to come. This is the most transparent administration in history. Fact check true.
I've got to say, I love this. And Democrats created their own demise. They created a media storm over this. They demanded the release of the files. To be fair, MAGA did too. But now Donald Trump is going to start releasing stuff. And Todd, what do the voters think about the Epstein stuff?
This is fascinating, Jason. We haven't even talked about the Wall Street Journal's fake hoax, the latest hoax. They're going to get sued into oblivion. They published a fake letter from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, wishing him a happy birthday and drawing some like awful nudes. So that's where they're going with this. And I think, Jason, just my own theories, Donald Trump called it a hoax because he knew this was coming. So he was laying the groundwork to be like, no, there are hoaxes with Epstein. And this is one of them. I didn't write a love letter to Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago. So we can't even talk about that today. And I do just have to comment on Darwin really fast. I think Darwin's been in the chat before. Who cares about the Epstein files? We have more things to worry about. Yes and no. And so, Darwin, we are going to talk about more things today. We just wanted to skim the surface of Epstein, just kind of bring people up to speed here. I also think it's fairly important to know who's running everything. And so if Donald Trump can't release the files, if Bongino, if Cash, if Bondi couldn't release the files, we still haven't seen them yet, by the way, doesn't that tell you that someone else is kind of in charge? So it is important to know who's running the show. It's important to know what information is out there. Why is it Republicans want to push amnesty right now? Is there something on them? So it is relevant. Do you want to know the kind of activities your elected rulers are performing and engaging in? I think that's somewhat relevant as well to know the evils in the world. But yes, there are more important things in your day-to-day life. Is the border secure? Are illegals getting deported? Are criminals getting locked up? Are boys staying out of women's locker rooms? There are more important things in your day-to-day life. But it's also kind of fascinating, Jason, and important to know, I would say.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal report was that was pretty funny.
All right, Jason, before we go to the CNN clip, because there's some comments on this, Dee Dee says, good morning. Just so you know, I couldn't find you via the live feed. Uh-oh, I hope we're live on Rumble. I had to look up Jason to find y'all. Missed you the last few weeks on vacation. I did get the mug. Thank you. Dee Dee, your hat finally shipped. I'm going to own that mistake. Our third-party fulfiller couldn't quite figure out, if you look at Jason's on the side of his hat here, we got our other logo etched in. There it is on the right side. They couldn't do that. And so I was going back and forth, and finally I said, just get rid of it. So your hat is coming. It's got the logo on the front like Jason has. It's on its way right now.
Amazing. Yeah, and I got to say, too, usually I help Todd pull up the comments on the podcast, but my mouse decided to quit working today. So Todd is doing all of the IT. There is our background staff. So thanks to those who support the show. We got Paul Reese tuning in. We got Francis. For those who don't know, we love broadcasting on Rumble. That's our main channel. We do broadcast on other platforms because Rumble doesn't censor. And some of this stuff we're going to go through, they're going to want to censor. So that's why we're over on Rumble.
And I just want to give a shout out to Carlene, always watching on the Twitter there. Carlene reposts our stream every single week. Thank you, Carlene, for reposting over on X. And then again, Darwin. We got Robert in the chat today. We got Tim. Big comment from Tim today. We got Eugene in the chat. Folks, if you're watching on Facebook, thanks for watching. You can find us over on Rumble, rumble.com, the American Tribune. It's just like YouTube. But thanks for tuning in on whatever platforms you're on. But Jason, we've got to get to CNN. I think CNN is in between. They refuse to admit the truth, and also they're too brainwashed to even be able to see the truth. This clip is fascinating, though, as they break down Trump's support even after calling us all stupid for wanting to see the Epstein files.
Look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down with Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% with Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex, or close there too, in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints, or not.
You just proved that not everything online is real in real life.
Who knew?
Amazing.
Twitter and X are not reality.
Is there any...
Says CNN. Everything online is not true. Say the CNN anchors of all people.
Right. And I got to say, first, a disclaimer. Anytime we show any polls are largely full of crap. We don't believe them. However, generally speaking, like a CNN poll understates Trump's success, not overstates. And the fact that they have to put this poll out and go, oh, this is really bad, means there probably is some validity to it. I would argue the approval rate's actually higher than what they're saying because they never oversample Trump voters. But here's the thing, and Todd said it earlier, and I think it bears repeating. We are intelligent and mature enough to say we can like 90% of the things President Trump does, and the 10% we don't get or we don't agree with, we can live in that world because we are not idiots. And I think on the left, they don't understand. Like everything's got to be one lockstep political ideology, unless it's communism. You can be a little more communist than other people. You can't be less. But on the conservative side, I'm going through his first list and like his campaign promises, border secured day one. Like, and I think we got the video on it too. There have been 1 million reported cases of self-deportation. 1 million reported, which knows how many there are. 1 million people who came here illegally said, screw it, I'm going home. Incredible. We're seeing the economy come around. We're seeing tariffs working. We're seeing so much winning. And like, yeah, we want the Epstein files out. I trust and pray Trump locks up some of the abusers and goes after them. But my God, Todd, what a glorious time to be alive. And Democrats just can't understand this. They can't understand why have none of the hoaxes that we've thrown out, from Russiagate to Bloodbath to any of it. Why is it not stuck with Trump? Because you're lying. And people that consume your content are idiotic.
Yeah, here I actually asked CNN to bring me on so I could explain these poll numbers. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can be disappointed that we haven't seen the Epstein files yet. We are getting promises to see them. I actually think, Jason, we're going to see whatever is remaining of the files. It won't be the smoking gun. It's not going to be like, here's Bill Clinton and a picture of this and explaining that, and he's now in jail. I don't think we're going to get that. We'll get some semblance of the files. But we can be disappointed about not getting them and also recognize all of the great things that are happening, and it had to happen. What do you think? Kamala Harris would have released the files? Oh, I really regret voting for Trump. I should have voted for Kamala because she would have released the files and made America even greater than Donald Trump. Like, no, this is not this is not reality. So yes, we are happy with what Trump is doing, even if we're let down by being called stupid and not releasing the files. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Like, this is not rocket science.
Right. And it just shows too how out of touch the media is and the left is. They have this political ideology, and it's funny too, all these people squawking about Epstein. Like, if you go like a Twitter search, and I did it on the Democrats' main account, they're like, what's Donald Trump hiding? And I did a search. The Democrat main Twitter account for the Democrat Party never had any tweet that had the word Epstein in it
Hmm.
until like 3 weeks ago. And it's
Weird.
like, come on, you guys. Like,
That's
it is so transparent. We see it. Like K-Gun Girl just said, we trust Donald Trump and he knows more than we do. We elected him. We selected him to run the country. We might squawk because we might not like everything. Like, we were critics of his handling of Iran. In hindsight, Todd, he did it right. And we said it at the time, like, we don't like this. We don't want to be a part of this. Trump thought it was right. Like, hey, that's what we voted on him for or voted for him for. And boom, turned out great.
But you know what, Jason? Even though we voted for Trump, this just in, we're allowed to criticize him still. Democrats accuse us of being brainwashed and drinking Kool-Aid and being in a cult. No, we can call out Trump. We're calling out Trump on the podcast every week over Epstein. Doesn't mean we don't support him or trust him or anything, but we're allowed to criticize our leaders. Have you ever heard a Democrat voter go after one of their Democrat beloved politicians? It just doesn't happen. And by the way, Joe Biden was president for 4 years. Democrats had the House and Senate. They could have released the files.
Right. Well,
Here, I got to get to this, Jason. I think this might be the best comment we had all day. May Thant Zin is over on the Facebook writing something that I'm not aware of here. But I believe that's probably a very intelligent comment. So May, thanks for watching on Facebook and letting us know.
I love social media. All right, Todd, have we spent enough time on Epstein?
We have. Jason, you can't talk about Trump winning and not talk about illegal immigration first. Illegal immigration coming to a close. You referenced it already. 1 million self-deportations. And it just gets better and better. These Dems are exposing themselves every day for their love affair with illegals. They love illegals. They hate you. And this shows up every single day. Because if Trump's pro-deport, then Democrats have to take the opposite. Like we said, even with Epstein, they got to be pro-illegal immigration to the extreme. And that's what we're getting day in and day out now.
Oh, I love it. And it's funny, too. One of the best things I've seen starting to take hold in the mainstream consciousness was a concept we've been talking about for a year or two since we started the podcast, which is if you think about the Democrat power base and you think about them winning elections or, House of Representative representation, their whole program is they're going to communicate to low IQ voters. They're going to appeal to them emotionally, which is why it's all the crazy cat ladies. They want to go pro-socialism. If you're a socialist, the only reason is because you don't think you can compete in a free society. I mean, think of it with your friends and family. Like, usually the people that are pro-socialist are the least impressive people that just can't deliver, that aren't like, hey, I'm going to go earn my money or do my things, that kind of thing. Yeah, there it is. Homath, great Twitter follow. Left him when you hate people.
Jason, I had no idea you were going to reference this, but as you were talking, I'm like, hey, I reposted a perfect synopsis of leftism and conservatism.
Yeah, you want to read it?
So this is a great account, by the way. Homath. Leftism is when you hate people who are better than you because it hurts less than hating yourself for being inferior. And the people you hate the most are the ones you wish you could be like, but you know you never can. When right-wingers hate people, they say, get away from me. We are better off without you. When left-wingers hate people, they say, come here and be equal to me. In other words, come down to my level. I will never be anything if I can't be the same as you. I love that.
It was an amazing synopsis. And as I think of people in my life that are leaning, left, if you think of your work teams, that lefty on your team, they're never the most productive person. If you think of the left in your life, their career, they're always in these middling careers that are just, they are never the biggest producer on the team. And it's like they want the rewards and the accolades of the high performers, but they aren't willing to put in the time or are incapable of it. And so instead of, I grew up like I knew Donald Trump as a young man. I would read his books or see his stuff and be like, there's a successful person. I want to look and see what he's doing and say, can I do that too? And can I do that better? Never I see that successful person, they owe me something. And it's just such a big mental break between the right and the left. And I think we're seeing it come to bear in our generation because, and I think it was you or Will that had retweeted something that was talking about how society now is defined by the bottom 25% of performers instead of the top. And Todd used to work in education. When I went to school, like, you strove to be in the top 25%. everybody wanted to be in that. You wanted to be in the advanced class. You wanted to do those things other than school wasn't cool, but that was how the system was designed. And if you were a failure and you were struggling, like they offered you help and stuff, but like that was looked down upon. That was like, oh my gosh, you need to get better. And now we've completely flipped it. All the schools, and Todd, you can speak to this better than I can, but our entire education system caters to these bottom performers. And instead of cultivating the top performers that are going to drive society, it lowers the bar for everybody.
Yeah, school encapsulates what's happening here. Special ed, English language learner, kids that need remedial help, they get all of the attention, they get all the extra resources. If you're a gifted kid or even an average kid, you get thrown in a class with 30 plus students, and that's it. That's all you get. And they want it that way. Again, it's all intentional. They want to hurt the smart kids, hurt the good kids, the capable kids. They want to make them wait. They want to make them bored. They want to make sure they don't get too advanced. And we have to try to bring everybody up is what they say. But in reality, all you're doing is bringing everybody down. Because I'm sorry, you could be a great student. You can have an IEP. You could be an English language learner. You might be a great kid. But you're never going to achieve what those other kids have. We have innate differences with IQ, abilities, skill sets, interests. But they're not interested in developing that up here. They just want to make sure that all those kids remain the same and drag them down to their level here.
Yeah. An interesting divulgence. Do we get to some Trump wins, Todd?
Let's get to some Trump
Crowd's
wins.
been waiting.
This is a win, but it's not a win that we have to listen to her. But here's Jayapal. Jason, do you remember the narrative here? Actually, let me share this tweet to frame this up here. How do I do this? Share this tab instead. Here we go. So, some account decides to point out ICE given access to personal data of 79 million Medicaid enrollees, including home addresses and ethnicities, whatever. 95% of them are U.S. citizens. I tried to warn you. I think you shared this, Jason, because you want to point out that they're trying to point out that like 95% of it's legitimate. See, there's not this massive fraud. And then they try to come up with some like pie charts here. Do you see all the illegals getting Medicaid? It's negligible. Look at that. All that dark blue is American citizens. I don't know about you, Jason. I did the math when I saw this because I'm like, wait a minute. 5% of people on Medicaid are illegals. So you take 5% of 79 million, that's 4 million illegals getting Medicaid. I was told this wasn't happening. And even in their own report, they're like 95% are Americans. So what are you talking about? It's like, no, in your own post, you're saying that 5% are illegals.
All right. So this one's funny. I shared this with Todd. So first of all, what they're referencing, ICE was given access to all the Medicaid enrollees. And the left is screaming government overreach. And I got to say, to be honest, like, I don't like government having access data, but let's be real. They have our access and data anyways. So if you're giving ICE Medicaid information, whatever. But now, like 3 weeks ago, when they were debating the big, beautiful bill, they told us, and actually, if you go in the replies, I replied with the screenshot to him where like 3 weeks ago, he said, I don't know, hopefully I come up early on.
Yeah, you should come up. We're all connected. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. I said, hey, is this you, bro? And on July 3rd, at this moment, undocumented illegals can't get federal welfare like SNAP, Medicaid, SSI. Anyone telling you anything is lying. And I'm like, wait a second. These lefty accounts who, what's that, 2 weeks ago, are up there saying, how dare we pass a bill to keep illegals off Medicaid? And then you give ICE access to Medicaid, and suddenly the story's changed, and 95%. So wait, 5% of illegals are on Medicaid. You're admitting it. And, I got a few likes and whatnot on it, but it was just funny because there were a bunch of politicians doing it too. War Monitor, they actually cover wars, so some of their stuff's okay. But they're just total left-wing propaganda. And the other thing is, we wouldn't have to give ICE access to Medicaid if the illegals weren't here in the first place. Like, this is the most brain-dead thing I've ever heard. But yes, folks, Trump win. ICE gets access to Medicaid. And we've covered in the past, but the cliff notes are illegals use Medicaid. They can't sign up for Medicaid. They use it as emergency services. It gets billed back to the federal government. In many cases, it gets billed back to the state governments too. But these folks they are just lying to you. And I hope more Democrats realize. And it's fascinating. Todd hadn't even seen my comment. It was like the same thing that that it's like, this is insane about 95%. I just can't even.
And it's not just Medicaid, it is SNAP too. I got a clip, but first, we got Kev in the chat. Good morning, Kev. What's going on, people? He says, Kev, I just need you to know, I got the Larry King background just for you per our conversation last week. This is the closest I could come to the light bright look here. Let me know how I did. We got to get to this, Jason, too. So here is another Democrat that was telling you, no, they don't have access to it. Oh, and by the way, I was talking to my illegal constituents, and they're afraid to access their SNAP benefits. So let's make that make sense.
Today I was at a food bank in my district talking about the SNAP cuts, the horrible SNAP cuts and Medicaid cuts. And they told me that people are not even showing up to Head Start where they get their food. They're not showing up to the food banks because they're afraid. And it's not just undocumented immigrants. It is people of all legal statuses. It's undocumented immigrants who have been here for 20 years.
Whoa. I was reliably told by these same people 3 weeks ago that no illegals are getting Medicaid or getting SNAP or getting any of that. No, we are not subsidizing our own invasion by creating a welfare state that these people want to show up to. I was reliably told all these things. Now, wait, these same people are telling us that they're like, Trump has broke these people. And like I say, if you're a Democrat, like, I want to know how you're sitting in your chair 3 weeks ago and like, oh, those Republicans are so stupid. Like, they think illegals are on Medicaid or getting SNAP. That's not what's happening. And then 3 weeks later, you're watching the same program and they're like, yeah, how terrible is it? These illegals aren't showing up for their free food. Your tax dollars are buying them. I can't even.
And they think this is an argument. They're like, well, they're not showing up to the ER anymore. They're not showing up to Home Depot. They're not showing up to these SNAP offices. They're afraid of getting deported if they try to access benefits or work. And all I hear is the system is working. They should be afraid of getting deported. We 1 million already self-deported because they're like, it's not worth it anymore to deal with the hassle. Oh, God, Jason, I can't believe that the freeways are more open. The ER wait times have gone down. The tax benefits might be exclusively reserved for Americans. I can't take it. Jayapal has convinced me that I should feel bad about this.
And it's so funny, too, because I don't know if the left understood some of this, but as Donald, and I'm sure they do, but as Donald Trump keeps deporting people and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, sending people home, but our quality of life gets better and better and better because all of a sudden, you know, you have better access to medical care. There's more money to go around. Like, you're not congested. There's more housing. Turns out the 30 million illegals are all living somewhere. Those houses could be occupied by American citizens. He's just breaking them, Todd.
Just breaking it. I was trying to find a clip of Jayapal saying, like, I am serving in Congress to represent the needs of immigrants in this country. And this is a perfect time for me to this is my weekly PSA. Immigrants and their children should not be allowed to vote or hold elected office. You're allowed to say thank you and be grateful for being in America. She was born in India. We did a clip. We have a video up on the AmericanTribune.com. You got Maria Salazar, a Republican from Florida, trying to push amnesty now. Same thing, Republican or Democrat. These immigrants come to America and they try to reshape this country. That's not how this works. Our country has been shaped very well, and you can all assimilate to it. And by assimilate, I mean just be here and not get in the way. But no voting, no elected offices.
I like that. And, you know, speaking of voting, we should probably go to England. But I wanted to drive home a point that I started on and then I wandered off in the weeds. Part of the Democrat model, USAID was just funding left-wing bullshit. I'm sorry, folks. And they shut that down. More winning on President Trump. Now you see all these left-wing organizations. Planned Parenthood can't kill babies. You see some of the immigration stuff getting shut down. You see these people. Their ideas can't survive unless the government's paying for it. You see NPR and PBS getting shut their government funding. If you want to spew left-wing propaganda, do it on your own dime. And it's a constant left-wing thing. This whole thing about bringing in these illegals serves a few purposes. One, cheap labor. Democrats, back to slaves, love cheap labor. And they love to scream to some Americans like, oh, you should get a living wage and you should have 12 weeks PTO and all that. But they don't want to actually follow through because they don't want the costs associated with that. So let's bring in third worlders. They also think bring in the third worlders, it counts to House seats, it counts to electoral college votes. So you maintain national relevance because of these folks. And then long term, if you grew up as an illegal immigrant who's receiving all this public aid, who are you going to vote for? Like, you are going to continue voting for that party that has brought you in and gave you free stuff. It is not rocket science. But now that it's getting shut down, Democrats are panicking. But in Europe, they brought in way too many foreigners who had no interest in learning about the country, and they had no interest in assimilating to UK standards and whatnot. But now, Todd, it's the newest grift. They want to get 16 and 17-year-olds to vote.
It's really important that 16 and 17-year-olds have the vote because they're old enough to go out to work. They're old enough to pay taxes, so to pay in. And I think if you pay in, you should have the opportunity to say what you want your money spent on, which way the government should go. So I'm really pleased that we're able to bring more young people into our democracy and give them the chance to have a say over how their taxes are going to be paid and what they're going to be used for.
I just can't, Jason. He says it so smugly and arrogantly, and this idea is evil. It's pure evil, what he is proposing here, and we all know the agenda. When you were 16, Jason, how did you and your buddies vote? How did you feel when you were a young kid that was naive and didn't know anything?
Well, I was a little unique where I just thought the government was all corrupt and wanted them all locked up in jail, but most young people vote liberal. I even wanted the Republicans. I mean, I grew up in the Bush era. I hated all those people. But yeah, making 16. So think this is leftist logic too. Some 16-year and 17-year-olds in England pay taxes. Therefore, everybody should get a right to vote. Now, I looked up stats. I don't know if these are real, but less than 5% of 16 and 17-year-olds, it sounds like, in England pay taxes. So because you have this population that's 16, 17 years old, that 5% of them pay taxes, suddenly every single one of them gets to vote. And they use these moral arguments with you all the time. They use with deportations. Here's Matilda from Guatemala. She's been here 30 years. She's done great. She's been whatever. So because we have this one person that did good, or if they deport somebody, like here's this crying woman and her baby, well, because of that one instance, like everything, we should just destroy and use no common sense. I don't know about you, Todd, but my kids, when they were 16 and 17 years old, I didn't trust them to set a curfew for themselves. I didn't trust them to make large financial decisions. And maybe I'm an overprotective parent. There were many things I couldn't trust 16 and 17-year-olds to do. I'll be honest, some 19, 20-year-olds, I brought this up to the wife, Jen, and J-Rob from MN, and she's like, I probably shouldn't have voted till I was 24. I didn't know what was going on. I thought Bill Clinton was cute. Maybe that was a good reason to vote for him. And I'm like, can you imagine what's going to happen to the UK? It is insane.
Yeah, Kev says 16-year-olds generally are idiots. I mean, the common sense approach here is to not lower the voting age, it is to raise the voting age. I'm fine carving out military exceptions. Kev makes the point that they brought it down to 18, I think from 21. For Vietnam, if you're going to be killed overseas for the elites, just little games that they play, then you're allowed to vote, fine. Other than that, it should be like 30. And we've laid out the scenario before. You got to be at least 30. You got to own property. Got to be a net contributor in the tax system in this country. You have to have proven yourself and become successful in order to have a say in how this country is run. You don't get to be a welfare queen and leech off the system and then vote for more welfare. You don't get to be 16 if you're making $10,000 a year. No, this is not taxation. What is in America if you make less than 12, 20 grand? You don't get taxed anyways. So yes, you can have a job and it turns out you don't pay taxes on that job because you have no other financial obligations. You're living with mom and dad. I mean, everything else is paid for. You get it all back because you don't meet that income threshold. It's all stupid. This is all by design. They want more leftist liberal votes in the UK because kids are stupid. These emotional appeals work on them. Oh, immigrants are human beings too. They just want a better life. Oh, that's so mean that you don't want to let them be here. So it works on 16-year-olds because they're stupid. We were 16. I was stupid at 16. I won't trust my kid to drive at 16. I won't trust my kid to have a boyfriend at 16. I sure as hell won't trust them to vote at 16. Now, my kid will turn out the right way. They will vote the right way, but I can't make a rule based on an exception. No, voting ages should be higher, not lower. That is the end of the discussion. I will not debate that. This is just evil what he's doing. It is the planned destruction of the United Kingdom.
Well, yeah, and Donald Trump is fighting this battle in America. They're pushing an issue, MTG, which MTG is a little crazy. Although I did retweet her yesterday about a point she made, which we might have to make on Rumble only. But one thing she brought up is that if you look at the census, we should get a census done so that House seats are determined based on native population. I think that's normal. I think that's common sense. I think that's more than reasonable. But I love that. Donald Trump's talking about redistricting in Texas and another state. Kev will remember which state it was, because they want to balance out the House seat so that hopefully we can get a larger majority. Because make no mistake, we need to be on fire as an economy going into the midterm so we can get a bigger House and Senate majority so that Donald Trump in his last 2 years, Ohio, thanks, Kev. See, how did I know Kev would know? Like, Kev knows everything. Someday he'll get on the show and he'll be like, oh, no, I just like to tune in and listen. But yeah, it's Donald Trump is doing so much to help the nation with voter security. And just think about it, folks. We're have to have a debate that we have so many illegal immigrants in the country that they're impacting the vote, who gets how many House seats. And all Americans aren't saying, well, yeah, it probably should be our citizens who get the most weight for who we elect. And Todd and I are radicals. We think if you're not a net contributor, that you shouldn't even get a vote. Like, if, and I'm not talking about old people on Social Security. You guys can still vote. You lived your life. But the fact that we have all these people that have these strong opinions about the government, but you're not going to work hard to pay taxes and be a net contributor, I'm done with it. Done with it.
Absolutely done with it. Yeah, but Jason, I think most estimates say 20 to 40 House seats in Congress would go to Republicans if not for the gerrymandering and the inclusion of illegals in the census, and therefore counting as people that deserve representation. So just on that alone, you and I are underrepresented and illegals are more represented, overrepresented in Congress, in America, in our own country. We get less representation just because illegals are included in that. I can't believe this. How are we even talking about counting illegals in the census and then using those numbers for apportionment in Congress and Electoral College? It's insane. Just insane.
It is insane. Oh, my God. Todd, where do we go next? So much winning.
So much winning. Well, here's CNN, Abby Phillips. DEI Abby Phillips. I don't know how else to describe her. She has a primetime slot on CNN. And have you watched her? She's awful. But here is Scott Jennings making the point that when Democrats gerrymander, it's good, because it is representative. And when Republicans gerrymander, it is bad. Let's take a listen.
Does it signify that Republicans ahead of the midterms believe that it's going to be so necessary to get an upper hand that they have to actually redraw an entire state's congressional maps in order to get 5 whole seats out of it?
Oh, probably the same thing that it signifies when they did it in Illinois and got a 14-3 delegation for D's. Maryland 7-1, Massachusetts 9-0. We know what happened here in New York, California. Even though they have a commission, we all know what goes on there.
In a mid-cycle specifically, are all of those cases in mid-cycles?
All of these cases are where Democrats use the power they have to give them an advantage.
But just to be clear, because I didn't do the research that you did in the break here.
I just got to pause it right there. Again, Abby Phillips, primetime host on CNN. This is her job. I didn't do the research, Scott. Turns out I'm just reading off a script and brainwashing my viewers, and I'm too lazy and ignorant and naive, and I just don't care to know facts because I have an agenda to push. That's what she just said.
Well, and I got to say, too, that I love what they're doing with redistricting. And I will say I hate redistricting. Everybody gerrymanders it to move. We're going to drop Republican neighborhoods in here so that we get more seats. Not a good way to govern. But Democrats have been doing it for decades. And for the first time in my life, Republicans have understood the rules, understand that the rules have changed. And if we want to win and remain relevant, we need to understand. I use the example, there was a time in the NFL that the forward pass was illegal and everything was running. You couldn't do a forward pass. The forward pass became legal, and there were NFL teams that are like, we don't like it. We're not going to do it. Those teams got demolished. Eventually, you have to understand the rules of the game and play it. Redistricting is a game Democrats have been playing for decades. They have used it to artificially manipulate how many seats they have in the House and the Senate. And while I dislike that, this Republican notion of, oh, we're not going to stoop to their level. Yes, we are going to play the rules the same way that the rules are written. And if it's okay for Democrats to do it, it's okay for Republicans to do it. And no, I'm not afeard of retribution. People forget what happened in like 2020 to 2024. Like, what are we afraid of? Like Donald Trump, like they tried to throw him in jail in 4 different cases. They convicted of 34 felonies that were crap, and they tried to kill the man. What else are you guys afraid of? Like how much worse that would it need to get before we're going to start playing by their rules?
Yeah, there's no more moral high ground, be better than them. It is about winning and implementing your political power. That is it. The left has 0 brakes, 0 guardrails. They are full steam ahead every single day. And you don't say, well, I'm going to be better than them because in my make-believe world, we do the right thing and they'll do the right thing if they follow our example. That's not how reality works. You play by the rules that they set until they change the rules because they're losing so bad. Yeah, no more high ground, no more being above it all. If you're allowed to imprison your political opponents, if you're allowed to gerrymander districts to benefit yourself, then that's what you do. It is their vision or our vision that will win over and rule this country, and that's all we need.
Yeah, and Francis, poor Scott. Todd, actually, my mouse is somewhat functioning, so I'm able to pull up the comments a little bit. Scott Jennings, it is just fascinating. Like that man deserves combat pay for sitting in a room with complete idiots and like having to be polite. And it's funny because it's sad to say, but that's kind of what life has boiled down to. Like Todd has friends and family that are liberal. I have friends and family that are liberal. And it's like there are these people that, like, okay, I can't talk anything remotely political when I go hang out with them because it's just going to be bad. Todd told the show of sister-in-law that wanted to talk gender stuff with the young kids. But imagine poor Scott Jennings. Like he's got to show up for work every day, put his little tie on and be like, I gotta go sit with a bunch of retards. Like, what am I gonna do?
And look where we paused it. His face as she's trying to be like, yeah, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't do research. You know more facts than I do. It won't change my mind, these facts, but I will acknowledge that you have actual facts. And Jason, I just got to say about the sister-in-law here, won't talk politics with me because she gets emotionally triggered because that's what they're trained to do, brainwashed to do, just triggered, emotional, and she won't talk to me, but she will talk to my kid. And when I told her to not talk to my kid about it, she said, well, just sit down with your kid afterwards and explain your point of view. So just so I understand, sister-in-law, I can talk to my almost 5-year-old about these issues, and she apparently can handle that better than you when I talk to you about those issues. I don't know.
Make it make sense.
Is it that they're changing it after the actual census process where you're supposed to create you're supposed to go through the congressional redistricting process?
Does it matter?
Yes, it does.
Very
much.
I
think that's the whole point.
So it's okay for Democrats to lopside these states. 9-0 in Massachusetts.
Here's what I will say about this. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, Jason. I just don't know. Like Scott Jennings just says these states are doing that, and their response is, but it's different because this is a midterm.
Right. And it's funny too, because like I love watching Scott Jennings clips because he just stares at these people, and I don't know how he doesn't just like start calling them names. So in one sentence, and I didn't find the clip, I didn't think it would be safe to play on here, but they were talking racism, and I think maybe it was on Piers Morgan show, and there was a black woman saying like black women can't be racist. But like that's the same kind of stuff that Scott Jennings deals with every day. And it's like, how do these people even say this? How do they get out of bed? And she has the same vote we do, Todd. She has the same vote we do. That's just ridiculous.
All right, Jason, I got to hop in the comments here. So Kev is talking about Jennings at the Charlie Kirk. I saw his speech, reading very low energy, just reading out of a book here. I think Scott is very good in the booth with quick quips and sound bites. But I am with you. Like, he doesn't have the charisma or the energy or the stage presence for much more than that. I really like him where he is. Kev says Scott's perfect where he is. Stay there. I think there was news that we broke on the American Tribune. Well, we didn't break it, but we covered it. He is going to launch his own long-form radio show, I think. That'll be interesting. I think Scott plays really well, again, with his common sense, short little comments, exposing Dems for their insanity. I don't know how it's going to play out long-form. It doesn't play out well when he gives speeches. We keep floating his name to run for a seat of some sort in Kentucky, I think where he's from. But I like Scott Jennings on CNN because he's great at rebutting them, keeping cool, sticking to the facts. And then, Jason, we got Bob over on Facebook. Bob says,
oh my gosh, we got Bob.
Bob says a P word is running the country. So we are accusing Trump of certain activities, but for a good cause. Bob, you're going to want to watch the beginning of the show where we kind of break this down. Number one, I always say this. We shouldn't have to say it. When I say release the files and give us the list, I mean all of the files and all of the list. If Trump is on there, I don't think he is, and I'll explain that in a second. If Trump is on there, then he deserves the same consequences and accountability as everybody else on the list. I don't know why this is so hard for you guys to understand, but again, you don't believe in nuance. You're not able to think outside your little communist bubble here. As a free-thinking conservative, I am able to say I support Trump right now, and if facts change, I will change my support. This is not complicated for me whatsoever. Release the list. And when I say the list, I mean the whole list, Bob. Again, this is not tough. I hope you can understand that. But Trump is not in there. And you know how I know? Because he has run in 2016, 2020, 2024. He is no longer eligible to run for president again. So sitting on that ammunition now doesn't make sense. They would have released it when they were at their peak desperation moment in 2024, and they didn't because he's not in there.
Well, and I was going to say, when Bob said a P word is running the country, was he talking about Joe Biden? Because and that's what's funny too with this. One of the funniest tweets I saw, the story about the Epstein thing, which is just comical. The Wall Street Journal that belongs to the bottom of a bird cage, like came out with this. Donald Trump wrote a note to Epstein in 2010, which is before Epstein was even a nut, and we covered all of it. But like those same people never report on Ashley Biden's journal. Ashley Biden's journal specifically had some pretty racy stuff in it. I don't know if it's true or not, but like nobody would touch that. Bob never even heard of that. Like he's like, oh no, the Ashley Biden journal was fake. That wasn't real, even though it was corroborated in a court. Project Veritas got the journal or got the diary and then got sued for it because they had it. And Bob's sitting there going like, oh no, there's no way this is real. And it's like, you are just a oh, there you go.
I don't know if we can read this on Facebook, but Bob, this is for you. So Wall Street Journal will publish a completely fake letter from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein and try to be like, oh, look at that. See here. And then we have, I think it was verified. I don't know why you would raid Project Veritas. I don't know why you'd raid James O'Keefe's house. We know everything about Biden now. It seems legit. So instead of going after real journalism, I'm afraid to even read this, Jason, over on Facebook.
Yeah, we should move on. We'll save that for Rumble only. Where do we go next, Todd?
All right. Well, we did Scott here. We'll play this clip really fast. This is kind of going to bookend our illegal census conversation. This is from Eli Crane calling everybody stupid. And again, it's one of two. You can be stupid. You can be intentionally misleading. I think it's both with Democrats because again, it always comes down to power for these folks.
Would you agree Democrats benefited from paroling illegal immigrants through increased population counted in the census and added seats for congressional representation?
It is true that as a general proposition that the arrival of immigrants in Democratic leading states tend to help Democrats. Also, the other big thing it does, it creates districts with relatively few citizens because the district lines are drawn based on total population. And those districts with relatively few American citizens do vote overwhelmingly Democratic.
I want to respond to a couple of the comments The gentleman that was implying that illegal immigration benefited Democratic states is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. I'm a duly elected member of Congress by citizens of my district, and to imply that Democrats are not elected by citizens of this country is outrageous and offensive, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need.
All right. I just got to point out, Jason, they hate Christianity. They don't believe in the Bible. They don't believe in God, but they will always pretend to be the most intelligent, devout believers when it comes to making these analogies. There's no room in the inn. What would you do? Turn away baby Jesus as an immigrant? No, you guys don't believe in Christianity. This doesn't work.
Right. And it's fascinating. The guy gives a statistical breakdown. He's a doctor, which Democrats love credentials. He makes extremely valid points. And if you look in some of these big cities, we see it in like Minneapolis, for instance, the Somali population, who largely aren't citizens, are just like Ilhan Omar probably doesn't have a seat in the House of Representatives if not for all the Somali population. Just if you look, they'd lose head count. They would lose some of these seats. He's pointing out details. It's a longer congressional hearing, but he breaks down in it how there are some districts where a very, very small percentage of them even have citizens that live there. And so it's 70% illegals and it's 30% citizens, and they get a House of Representatives seat. And these folks are just lying about it. They're acting like what he's saying not true, what he's saying isn't a thing. And it drives me bananas. And once again, why would we use immigrant population to determine representation in the government, much less illegal representation to determine who has seats in the House of Representatives? Make it make sense, Todd.
Well, we shouldn't have to, but we're going to, because she said it. She believes it. Dems out there believe it. She doesn't address the actual issue. So the facts on the ground are we count illegals in the census. Illegals in the census then are used, because they are counted, for apportionment of seats, which means they are creating districts based on total population. Citizens plus illegals equals total population. So illegals help inform what seats are created and who is in there. This doesn't mean that not a single American didn't vote for her. There are American citizens, no doubt, in this woman's district. There are also illegals that gave her the same population count as every other representative. But she's going to go out there and say, how dare him, shame on you, because you made the accusation that I'm not elected here by American people. That's not what we're saying. But we are saying that yours or other colleagues of yours districts are in existence because illegals are counted. But refusing to acknowledge that. And again, I think she's probably too dense to make that distinction. Just like, what was our guy in here? Bob was making accusations. I guess we had to clarify some stuff. They just don't see it. I honestly think it's stupidity. The Pelosi's, the Schiffs, they know what they're doing. They are evil. This gal right here is low IQ, just run-of-the-mill sheep. She's begging for her next booster. She honestly can't process this information.
I gotta say too, it's funny. I think it was Scott Adams started the line, and it just resonated with me, and I've been using it ever since. Like, Democrats are going to ruin the world because they just don't know how things work. And yeah, you make a point. Hey, we illegals are a big part of your district. I can't believe you're saying that. And yeah, but it's true. You're not refuting the facts.
Yeah. I'm sure an American citizen that watches CNN voted for you. I have no doubt about that. But your district shouldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah. Jason.
Well, where else do we go before we finish up on the old Facebook, YouTube side?
Facebook. I think our whole Facebook audience needs to hear this great news. This is the one thing from Donald Trump. I need to see it to believe it, but he's been talking about this for a long time, and that's the abolition of the income tax. Now, I have made the point, I don't see the income tax going anywhere because there are millions of tax professionals and adjacent professions related to making sure that you pay them to navigate the complexity of the IRS tax codes. I just don't see it happening. There are too many well-paying, white-collar jobs in America that thrive on me hiring them in order to do my S Corp, LLC, personal. My wife and I are too complex here. We pay thousands of dollars in tax prep. I just don't know how you eliminate those professions. That's why I don't think it's actually going to happen. I will be shocked if it does. I mean, it should. But Donald Trump says tariffs kick in August 1. The revenue expected from the External Revenue Service should make it necessary then that we no longer need an IRS, an individual tax. I don't know, but Donald Trump said it again. Let's listen.
And yeah, I have a real shot. We're taking in tremendous amounts of money. You saw that we had a $25 billion surplus last month.
Yeah.
And the tariffs haven't really started by comparison to what they will be. You know, we're doing them on cars right now, cars and steel mostly. But the other ones kick in on August 1st, and they're very substantial. And the answer is, yeah, I think there's a real shot. I actually say there's a shot at, we have the Internal Revenue Service. We could use the External Revenue Service, and we wouldn't even need the Internal Revenue Service. But the money is very substantial. It's hundreds of billions of dollars.
All right, so he's been talking about it for a while. Here he is again. This was from, I think, yesterday.
For those who are unfamiliar with the term, there's this term called Overton window. And what the Overton window is, it's a circle of window where you can see a reality. And if it's outside that circle, people can't even process it. Like birthright citizenship, pre-Trump, there was no world where birthright citizenship wasn't a thing in that Overton window. Donald Trump brought it to a national consciousness. He started the discussion. Now there are huge people whose worldview has shifted, and they're accepting the reality that birthright citizenship might not be legal, and it's probably a horrible idea. And I agree with Donald Trump. He shifted the Overton window. Income tax is one of those issues. There was a time in this country not long ago that you did not get taxed on income. You didn't. I mean, imagine too, if we made it illegal to have people like withhold taxes, and you had to actually like write the check. Like Todd and I are small business owners, business partners on the American Tribune, and we have to write a tax. We have to write a check every year to the government. Most people don't even understand that process. They don't understand how many thousands of dollars are being stolen from them by the federal government. Donald Trump bringing this up is huge. Do I think he'll get it done? No. Do I think it's going to shift the conversation to how much, where do we get our funding from for the government? Absolutely. When I saw that this week, and he keeps bringing it up, he's bringing up limiting property taxes. All those are usually state and local. I'm a huge fan of that. More winning, shifting the Overton window, bringing up these conversations. And how many Americans are going to be shocked to know there was a time not that long ago that you didn't pay any income tax?
Yeah, it turns out you don't have to rely on the government for everything, and the government wastes all your money. I think the compromise, Jason, I could live with cutting everything in half. That retains the tax profession industry, because I still don't want to navigate all the rules here. But if I'm paying half of what I pay right now, that is a major win. And again, if Trump can offset some of those revenues with tariff costs, great. That's a great start. And again, Overton window shifting. Imagine cutting income taxes at all levels just by half overnight. Big win. And Robert's over there saying no income tax would be great. No property tax on after 65 would be nice too. No property tax on a paid off home. I don't care what age you are. And Robert, thanks for your comment. Thanks for watching here. The problem when you're going to segment it after 65 as a blanket age is it puts the tax burden on the younger generations again. And I think Americans are tired of that. We don't need to burden the younger folks anymore with more taxes. Young people entering the workforce are already paying everyone's Social Security. They're already inheriting $37 trillion in debt. They're already inheriting the inflation. So saying that you're now going to inherit property taxes to give retired folks lower property taxes, I just can't. I just can't get there, Robert. I see where you're coming from. How about you pay off your home and then you don't have any more property taxes? I can live with that compromise as well.
Yeah, well, we should probably wrap up here on the Facebook, YouTube. Get ready for the switch over to the Rumble only. Todd, do you want to explain where people can find us on Rumble?
And before I do that, Jason, we got Paul Reese in the chat this morning. We did not give a special shout out to Paul Reese here. Paul, in Minnesota, in our backyard, where Jason and I are broadcasting from as well. Disabled veteran-owned coffee company, SplitRockCoffee.com. That's SplitRockCoffee.com. If you go there, use promo code TODD10, TODD. Promo code TODD10 at SplitRockCoffee.com. Jason was watching my broadcast yesterday. I was fired up. I was on cup number 3 of the breakfast blend. That roast has caffeine levels that will make you shout about Jeffrey Epstein for an hour. You can just watch the broadcast to see how true that is. But SplitRockCoffee.com, use promo code TODD10, subscribe and save today. And folks, if you are liking the broadcast right now, we are not done yet. We're going to say goodbye to our Facebook audience, which unfortunately includes Bob. Maybe Bob will join us on Rumble as well. But we are not done broadcasting. Head over to rumble.com and look for the American Tribune. We got a page of like 3,500 followers. You can see the chats here. We got a great community that is growing every week. We always bring over a few from Facebook every week. So we hope that's you today over on Facebook, rumble.com. You can get it on your phone, a little green play button. It's just like the YouTube app. Instead of red, it's green. And instead of being censored, it's free speech. So we look forward to seeing you there. We're going to sign off from Facebook, though, and we're going to be back in 1 minute, unless you have anything else to add, Jason.
See you in a minute.